She was staring at her hotel bathroom mirror, blotting concealer over the crater that stress had dug into her right cheek, when the app notification lit up her phone. Your meeting with Voxen AI is confirmed. Suite 1432, 9:30 a.m. Emily Tran froze mid-blend. There it was. Confirmation of the biggest moment in her career, the thing she'd chased through 3 mergers, 2 reorgs, 4 years of being called great with people like it was a damn apology. She exhaled, then smiled. Not too wide. She'd learned that big smiles made men in boardrooms assume she wanted approval. Emily didn't want approval anymore. She wanted leverage. Downstairs, the conference floor was a riot of overpriced shoes, gaudy booths, and ambitious underlings trying to look both busy and important. Emily had been all those things once. Now, she moved like she belonged, 'cause she did, even if her badge still said senior manager like it was a scar they refused to let fade. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a Slack ping from her boss, Ron. Don't forget to soft pitch Voxen, but let's not overpromise. That integration is maybe a 2025 thing. She read the message 3 times. Soft pitch. After 3 months of navigating NDAs, flying to Palo Alto on her own dime, slipping into beta tests under fake user credentials just to confirm compatibility, now he wanted her to soft pitch the biggest AI firm in the sector. She resisted the urge to scream into the sink. Instead, she composed a reply. Noted. We'll read the room. Then she muted him. Emily walked out of the room and onto the casino floor, heading toward the escalators that would carry her to the upper suites. Her badge swayed on its lanyard, still branded with that startup-turned-bloated beast logo, the one that used to feel like a badge of pride. Now, it felt like a warning label. The thing about being underestimated for too long is, you start weaponizing it. Emily had learned to nod like she agreed when Ron rewrote her slide decks. She'd learned to laugh politely when the CTO called her the partnership whisperer, like she was some corporate animal handler. She definitely learned not to correct people when they credited her projects to the men who sat near her. Like the time she introduced their product to the East Asian telecom client that would later double their valuation and got left out of the press release entirely. Or when she caught a privacy compliance issue just in time to avoid a 7-figure fine, and legal sent Ron a bottle of Glenlivet. But this time was supposed to be different. This time, she had receipts. Emily had kept every email, every scheduling chain, every late-night Slack message from Voxen's COO who, off the record, had told her, this only works if you're in the room. And now she was. At 9:12 a.m., she was already outside Suite 1432, pretending to check emails while ignoring the thrum in her chest. It wasn't nerves. It was fury waiting for somewhere to go. The air smelled like someone had sprayed confidence out of a can. Or maybe it was just cologne and capitalism. She looked down at her phone. Still no text from Ron to wish her luck. No let me know how it goes. He was probably too busy pretending he'd booked the meeting himself. Probably already refreshing his inbox, waiting for her to feed him the good news he could repackage as leadership. You're just good at small talk, Emily. You've got a people gift. That's what he told her in her last performance review. Same one where he suggested she shadow someone more technical if she wanted a shot at promotion. Never mind that it was her strategic playbook that opened the Japan market, or that she taught herself enough Python to prototype the plugin that got them that glowing TechCrunch review. But sure, let's call her the people person. Translation: you make things happen, but we'll never say you built them. She wiped her hands on her blazer. Slate gray, tailored, flashy jewelry. The kind of outfit that said, I'm not here to flirt, I'm here to close. Her hand hovered near the doorbell of Suite 1432 when, of course, her phone rang. Ron, she muttered, the name tasting like dust. She answered with practiced brightness. Hey, what's up? His voice was calm, too calm, like a dad explaining to his kid why the family dog had to be sent to a farm. Emily, quick one before your meeting. Just wanted to loop you in on a shift. Had to make some hard decisions this quarter. Her stomach dropped. And unfortunately, your role was impacted. She blinked. The hallway wobbled like a bad camera pan. Impacted? I know this is a shock, Ron continued, breezy like a self-help podcast. But the company's pivoting and we had to prioritize core verticals. You'll get full severance, of course. HR will follow up. Silence. He mistook it for confusion. You'll land on your feet. You always do. People like you, he hung up. Emily stood alone in the hallway, phone still pressed to her ear like a dead limb. She wasn't breathing or blinking or processing. She was just there, fired, 2 minutes before the biggest meeting of her career. before the deal that would have finally made her undeniable. And just like that, she was disposable. She lowered the phone, looked at the door. Then she pivoted, not away, but toward the elevator, toward the rival suite across the hall. She didn't knock on the rival suite's door right away. Emily just stood there, staring at the gold-plated number, Suite 1435, while her pulse pounded hard enough to echo in her teeth. A split second earlier, she was an employee with momentum. Now she was a professional ghost, technically unemployed, standing outside a door that could change everything or ruin her completely. That was when the second notification came in. Voxen AI, internal memo, confirmed intent to sign exclusive integration agreement with Emily Tran. Contingent on in-person verbal confirmation. Expires 10:00 a.m. Her breath caught. She reread the message twice, then a third time. The subject line alone was enough to drop a man to his knees. Exclusive integration. Her name, not the company's, hers. It was real, all of it. Voxen had done what no partner had ever done before. Acknowledged that she wasn't just a mouthpiece for her employer's logo. They knew she'd brokered this. They wanted her at the table. Not Ron, not legal, not the overpaid VP who once asked her to keep it light on the analytics honey. They wanted Emily Tran. The floor under her felt less like carpet now and more like ignition. And that's what made the next few seconds all the more bitter, because while she stood there, 2 minutes from walking into what should have been her coronation, her phone began to buzz again. Ron. The name lit up her screen like a virus warning. She thought about ignoring it, letting him rot in his own irrelevance. But instinct and trauma were a hell of a drug. She picked up. Ron, she answered, careful to keep her voice even, clipped. I'm about to step into the Voxen meeting. Yeah, he said, dragging out the word like it owed him rent. Before you go in, I need to share something. She paused. What? You're being let go. The words didn't hit like a hammer. Hammers are honest. This was a scalpel, small and cold and designed to make you bleed in ways that don't show up until you're too dizzy to stand. I'm sorry, she said, too calm, too sharp. Her voice cracked like frost. It's a company-wide restructure, he lied. She knew it. He knew she knew it. It wasn't personal. You've done great work. Leadership felt we need to consolidate strategic functions. Strategic functions. She was the only person in the department who knew what the hell strategic even meant. Ron kept going, as if reciting from a script he didn't bother to rehearse. There'll be a generous severance, and HR will handle the transition. Please don't worry about the Voxen meeting. I'll have Greg follow up. Emily actually laughed. Not a polite one. A broken, breathless, kidding me kind of laugh that scared a hotel staffer passing by. You're sending Greg? She spat. The guy who thought NLP stood for no longer profitable. I know this is hard, Ron said, with the effect of someone explaining how printers work to a toddler. But let's not burn bridges. You think I care about bridges, she said. I built the road. There was a silence so thick it could have clotted. Then came the part that would sit in her spine for years. You'll be fine, Emily. People like you make rooms feel good. He hung up before she could answer. For a second, the hotel hallway collapsed in on itself, not literally, but emotionally. The world narrowed to the click of elevator doors, the whir of air vents, the distant noise of a keynote speaker yammering about disruption while sipping overpriced green juice. Emily's phone was still in her hand, that little glowing brick of betrayal. She looked at the time, 9:28. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to decide if she was going to disappear like Ron clearly hoped. If she'd slip out of the hotel, take the severance, and maybe one day get her revenge by leaking earnings slides to a hungry tech journalist. Or she could walk into Suite 1435, not as an employee, as a weapon. Emily looked down at her badge, then peeled it off. The lanyard slipped free from her neck with a satisfying little snap, like a snake shedding dead skin. She tucked it into her pocket, squared her shoulders, and knocked. Not once, not gently, 3 sharp raps, because Emily Tran wasn't asking to be in the room anymore. She was kicking the damn door open. The knock still echoed when she nearly lost her nerve. For one long heartbeat, Emily's knuckles tingled like they'd just set off a bomb. Her hand hovered, uncertain, near the suite door. She could feel the thick hotel air clinging to her blazer, smell the faint tang of citrus cleaner mixed with casino smoke wafting up from below. Everything felt wrong. Too still, too quiet. Like the moment before a courtroom verdict, except this time, she was the defendant, the prosecutor, and the only damn witness. She wasn't employed anymore. That fact hit her like a shove to the chest. She was no longer representing anyone. No legal authority, no badge that meant anything, no fallback plan. If she walked into that room, wouldn't just be bold, it might be illegal, or stupid, or humiliating. She had no idea how Voxen would react. What if they laughed? What if they called security? What if they were only ever interested in the deal because of the brand behind her? And now, without it, she was just some unemployed nobody in a fitted blazer. Her heart was slamming around in her ribcage like a bird stuck in a shoebox. Emily turned halfway, looked back down the hallway she came from, or the elevator toward the soft retreat of resignation. She imagined herself walking away, not in disgrace, but in dignity. Quiet, no scene, just another burned-out woman with a rolling suitcase full of sensible shoes and shattered dreams. Maybe she'd book an earlier flight, sleep for a week, drink red wine with her sister and blame the economy. That could be her story. That would be easy. But something stopped her. A memory, stupid and sharp. Her first year at the company, when Ron had accidentally left her off the invite for a critical strategy meeting, then claimed it must have been a Google Calendar glitch. She remembered sitting in a glass conference room lobby, watching men twice her age pretend they hadn't seen her waiting through the window, like a dog at a locked door. Or the time she nailed the pitch to the big retail client, and Ron had literally said to the team, "Let's all thank Emily for setting the vibe." Vibe? Like she'd been lighting scented candles instead of saving their Q2 pipeline. Her fingers curled into fists. Her skin prickled, and the voice in her head, the one she usually ignored, started growling low and dangerous. They don't get to decide your value. She took one step back toward the door, then another. The handle on suite 1435 clicked, and a woman in a blue pantsuit opened it. Early 30s, sharp eyes, phone to her ear. She glanced at Emily, paused. "You're here for the Voxen sit down?" The woman asked, voice crisp but neutral. Emily swallowed, yes. The woman nodded slightly and stepped aside. "They're waiting." Emily walked in, and everything changed. The suite was sleek and sunlit, with towering windows framing the city's smear of neon chaos below. A large modular couch, a glass table scattered with tablets and black coffee, and behind it all, 2 men and 1 woman in quiet conversation. One of the men looked up. Recognition sparked. His name was Lars Mikkelsen, CEO of Apexion, the rival firm Emily's own company had dismissed as low-rent disruptors in at least 6 internal decks. He looked at her like he wasn't sure whether to laugh or lean in. "Well," he said slowly, "look who finally crossed the aisle." Emily opened her mouth, words stacked behind her teeth like anxious dominoes. Her palms were sweating, her voice gone rogue. Her tongue felt thick. Somehow she pulled it all together. "Lars," she said, stepping forward with the steady confidence of someone bluffing into a royal flush. "Change of plans." He studied her for a moment, reading more in her body language than a LinkedIn resume ever could. Then his eyes narrowed, the corner of his mouth twitching in something dangerously close to a smile. "Change," he said, motioning toward the empty chair, "is good." Emily sat. She had no plan, no legal clearance, no job title, just the deal memo on her phone and a fire in her gut that burned hotter than the shame. The woman in the blue pantsuit, now seated at the edge of the room with a stylus in hand, turned to Lars. "Should we loop in legal?" Lars shook his head. "Let's hear what she has to say first." Emily looked at each of them. The weight of the unknown pressed hard against her ribs, but she didn't flinch. Because the truth was this: the old Emily might have walked away, but the one sitting in that chair? She was done playing nice. Emily smoothed her blazer like it was armor. Her fingers found the edge of her phone, still buzzing with the aftershocks of Ron's cowardice. She could feel his voice in her bones, that smug, dismissive "you always make people like you," like her entire career had been a charm trick. Like she was a cocktail party in heels, not a strategist who'd cracked open Voxen's API potential before any engineer on payroll even knew what the damn acronym stood for. But now she was in their house, Apexion's suite, and there were no soft lights or welcome platitudes. Just the CEO and 2 senior execs who looked at her the way predators look at prey that might surprise them. Lars Mikkelsen leaned forward, elbows on his knees, expression sharp, his salt and pepper beard trimmed with military precision, his eyes glinting like they'd already calculated 12 outcomes and were waiting to see which one she bled into. "You look calm," he said. "I expected flustered." Emily smiled without showing teeth. "I did panic. In the hallway, then I remembered I don't work for cowards anymore." That got his attention. Lars glanced at his team, then back at her. "So this is off-book." Emily nodded once. "Off-book, off-payroll, off-brand." He placed her phone screen down on the coffee table like a dealer laying her ace. "But here's what's still on the table, Voxen. Exclusive integration. They want a sign today. They don't care about logos. They care about the human interface. That's me. The woman in the corner, Sheila, based on her email signature from a dozen competitive pitch threads, scoffed, polite but pointed. Forgive the skepticism, Miss Tran, but if you're no longer representing your company, what exactly are you proposing? Emily locked eyes with her, that I bring the deal to this table instead. Sheila opened her mouth, but Lars raised a hand. Wait, he said, eyes narrowing, I know you. Emily's heart thumped. I was on that SXSW panel last year, the one about scalable ethics in machine learning. You were keynote. Your CTO was on my panel. Lars snapped his fingers. Timothy, that's right. You're the one who made him eat his own slide deck. About predictive modeling? Emily leaned back, relaxed for the first time all day. I asked him to define Bayesian inference without his notes. He couldn't. Lars laughed, a single barking sound like a rifle crack. That was you? Emily didn't blink. Still me. He stood up, walked to the window. The desert sun threw gold across his tailored suit, backlit like a villain in a redemption arc. So let me get this straight. You were fired this morning, 2 minutes before my Voxen meeting. You have no legal authority to negotiate, correct? You're risking being blackballed from half the valley. She tilted her head. Only the half that lets men like Ron get away with intellectual theft and performative empathy. Lars turned around. And you're here why? Revenge? No, she said. Opportunity. He studied her. Really looked now. Not as a resume, not as an email signature, but as a live wire. You've got teeth, he said finally. Emily didn't flinch. You don't survive in tech without growing fangs. There was a pause, and in that pause the atmosphere shifted. Not tense, not polite, electric. Lars sat down again. Walk me through what Voxen wants. Assume I'm already sold on you, but show me why I should be sold on the switch. Emily nodded. Voxen doesn't want to build. They want to integrate. But they don't want to integrate with dinosaurs. My former employer's roadmap is bloated and 2 quarters behind. Their products riddled with code debt. They'll strangle Voxen's agility. I know because I spent the last year untangling it. I was their workaround, their translator, their fix. And now I'm unclaimed. And I'd rather sell fire to someone who knows how to keep it burning. Sheila tapped something into her tablet. The third exec, quiet until now, leaned over and whispered to her. Lars didn't even blink, just leaned back and said, you realize if this works, it won't just bury your old employer. It'll bury everyone who vouched for them. Emily's voice was quiet, steady, lethal. Good. Lars grinned. You've got the room. Don't screw it up. Emily picked up her phone and pulled up the confidential term sheet Voxen had sent her that morning. NDA still unsigned, time-stamped, untethered. For the first time all morning, her hands didn't shake. She wasn't free-falling anymore. She was flying. Lars didn't make her wait. After she walked him through the Voxen term sheet, sketched the integration hooks on a hotel napkin, and cited 2 back-end conflicts their engineers hadn't caught, he raised his eyebrows, leaned back in his chair, and asked one question. How fast can you get them to sign with us instead? Emily didn't blink. Before your martini hits room temp. That was it. He extended his hand across the table, half-smile cutting through his practiced stoicism. Interim VP of Strategic Initiatives, he said. Unofficial for now. You answer only to me. Nail the deal and we go permanent. She shook his hand. His grip was dry and firm. Old school. You'll need to fly under the radar, he said. This conference is full of snakes, and your old boss probably still thinks he owns your signature. He owns a PowerPoint I made in 2019, she said. Can frame that and cry into it. Lars chuckled. Get to work, Tran. And just like that, she crossed the line from ghosted to ghost operative. The elevator ride down felt like decompression from a scuba dive. She stared at her reflection in the gold trim, watching her own face morph from bewilderment to something leaner, sharper. It hit her that she was now operating in full stealth. Unemployed on paper, deputized in private. If Ron found out, hell, if anyone did, it could all collapse. She slipped back into the main conference floor like a fox in borrowed fur. Her badge still had her old company's name, and that alone was enough to keep the wrong questions away. She nodded at people she hated, hugged people who once stole her slide decks, and smiled with the hollow precision of a news anchor reporting a plane crash. Her first move was to loop in Kara, an old friend in dev relations who'd always said, if you ever jump ship, take me with you. Kara was still with the old company, stationed at the demo booth like a branded mannequin. Emily approached her with an iced matcha in hand. Peace offering, she said. Kara took it, then leaned in. What happened? Emily lowered her voice. I need a quick favor. Private. Can we walk? They made a loop around the faux garden near the startup booths. Emily laid out just enough. She was out, not by choice, and something big was in motion. Can't say where I'm landing, she said, but I need to know if Ron's activated the damage control machine. Kara nodded. He's been pacing. Pulled Greg from the sales floor. Nobody knows why yet. Emily exhaled. Okay, keep eyes open. And if you hear anything about Voxen? Kara stopped walking. Wait, you're still doing Voxen? Emily didn't answer. Kara laughed under her breath. Jesus, Em, you're a shark. Emily smiled. Just hungry, they split. Kara vanished into the crowd like smoke, and Emily beelined to the one person she knew would need careful handling. Jonah Mayers, the investor. A mentor once, then a ghost when the board got too political. She hadn't seen him in a year, but he'd texted her earlier, heard something weird. Can we talk? He was near the VIP bar, sipping gin and scanning the crowd like a war general. She approached cautiously. Jonah. He turned, eyes lighting up. Emily. Looked like someone who just buried a body, metaphorically. He motioned for her to sit. Tell me everything. She didn't, not all of it, just the facts that mattered. She was no longer with the company. She had the Voxen deal still in reach. She was transitioning. Jonah sipped, thinking, does Ron know? No. Do you want him to? Not until it's too late for him to ruin it. Jonah smiled like a man watching chess pieces fall into place. Good. Always said you were the smartest person on that sinking ship. Emily held his gaze. Are you still invested? In you? He said, always. She left the meeting both energized and rattled, because now it was real, not just a whispered scheme, but a full-on offensive. She had back-channel support, a ghost title, and the biggest deal of her career under one trembling hand. But every move had to be perfect. No leaks, no mistakes, no blood in the water. Back in her room that night, Emily dumped her blazer over the chair and stood barefoot on the hotel carpet, staring out at the Vegas skyline. Neon screamed below. Fountains danced for drunks and tourists and billion-dollar egos. Somewhere in the chaos, her old team was probably prepping for tomorrow's press junkets, totally unaware that their crown jewel was already halfway across enemy lines. Emily smiled. Then she double-checked the Voxen doc, redrafted the pitch for Apexion, started drafting 3 fake email threads, just in case she needed to bluff another meeting or redirect suspicion. Her hands moved fast, but inside, her chest hummed with the kind of fear that tastes like gunpowder. She was all in now, and there was no such thing as folding. The next morning broke with a kind of stillness that only ever happens right before a storm, when the hotel hallway hums too quiet, and the light coming in through the blackout curtains feels off, like a spotlight waiting to burn you alive. Emily lay there for a minute in her robe, staring at the textured ceiling and letting the weight of the day settle on her chest like an anvil wrapped in velvet. She checked her phone, 6:41 a.m. Already 6 Slack messages, 3 missed calls from an unknown, and a new text from Jonah. He's here. No name, no context, but she didn't need either. Her stomach clenched like it was prepping for impact. Ron. He was early. Maybe he'd never left. Maybe he'd flown in last night on the company card he claimed they had to tighten. Emily didn't bother with room service. She suited up. Black blouse, gold watch, neutral lips, power boots. She pinned her old company's badge back onto her lanyard like a crucifix and whispered a quick prayer to the patron saint of professional deceit. By 8:12 a.m., she was already on the expo floor, shaking hands and lying through her perfect, white-collar teeth. The gossip hit before lunch. She's here? I thought she got axed. No, she's probably just transferring teams. Why would they let her pitch Voxen? Maybe she's poaching for someone else. You think she's shopping the deal? No way, she's too loyal. She built their partner stack from scratch. Emily floated past all of it, smiling, nodding, laughing at jokes that curdled her blood, pretending nothing had changed. She hit 3 panels before noon, dropped by a woman in tech brunch she hadn't RSVP'd for, and bumped shoulders with more ex-colleagues in 5 hours than she had in 5 years. Each one looked at her like she was a walking ghost, alive, but wrong. At 12:17 p.m., she got the confirmation. Kara slid into her DMs with a screen grab, an internal Slack from the business development channel. Ron's name on it, casually mentioning that due to some shifting dynamics, we're now exploring a potential synergy with Halcyon Labs. Halcyon Labs, a mid-tier AI firm with good branding and barely any back-end strength. Emily nearly laughed out loud. That was the backup plan. They'd gone from dancing with Voxen to pawing at a glorified chatbot company with a marketing intern who called himself a growth prophet. They had no clue. No clue the original deal was already spoken for. No clue she'd walked it right out from under them. Oh, clue, the press timeline was already in motion. And then came the twist. 3:09 p.m., her phone buzzed. Jonah Mayers, can we talk somewhere quiet? He's looking for you. Be careful what you say next. Emily stared at the texts, heart caught between a laugh and a scream. Jonah, the old mentor, the man who'd once sent her a bottle of Lagavulin with a note that read, "Don't ever let these children convince you they know more than you." He hadn't spoken since the bar the day before, but clearly he knew something had shifted. He's looking for you. It could only mean Ron, and if Ron was sniffing around, that meant he suspected. Emily typed back, location, the rooftop bar, now. She slipped away from the expo floor like a thief, took the stairs instead of the elevator, brushed past two execs from product who were mid-argument about logo placement. The time she stepped out into the sunlight of the rooftop lounge, she was already sweating from heat, nerves, or maybe the slow, sick rush of being hunted. Jonah was at the far end, sipping a cucumber cocktail like it was scotch. He didn't smile. "You've got maybe 6 hours," he said, motioning her into the seat beside him. "Then the story becomes whatever they say it is." Emily sat. "Define they, your old boss, legal, comms. I don't think they know the full picture. They know something's missing." She steadied her voice. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. Yet." Jonah swirled the glass in his hand, watching the condensation drip down like blood from a lazy wound. "I invested in the company because of you," he said. "You were the only person in that goddamn place who ever knew what market timing actually meant. But now you're a walking conflict of interest. You realize that, don't you?" Emily clenched her fists under the table. "I didn't steal anything," she said. "I was the deal." Ron just didn't know how to handle the idea that something good could originate outside his ego. Jonah smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That may be true, but truth doesn't always win. Narrative does," she exhaled. "So why are you warning me?" "Because I like watching kings get their teeth kicked in," he said, then took another sip. "And because I need to know, are you really going to pull this off?" Emily didn't hesitate. Yes, silence that followed was the kind that made or broke alliances. Finally, Jonah nodded. "Then make it fast, make it clean. And whatever you do, don't blink." She stood, hands trembling even though her face was granite. From below, the conference buzz rose like static. Somewhere on the expo floor, Ron was probably smiling, lying to someone, selling his version of events like it was gospel. But he didn't know. He didn't know she'd already rewritten the ending. He had no idea the countdown had begun. They met in a corner booth of a half-lit sushi bar that didn't exist on the conference map, one of those insider spots tucked between a spa entrance and a maintenance hallway. The kind of place you only found if someone wanted you to. Emily walked in 5 minutes early and saw Jonah already seated, tie off, sleeves rolled, sipping hot sake like he was waiting for a confession. "Sit," he said without looking up. She obeyed, not out of deference, but calculation. Jonah Mayers wasn't just an early investor. He was one of the architects of her old company's rise, a shadow puppeteer with a Rolodex of whales and an uncanny instinct for sniffing out rot. If he turned, if he even hinted at publicly backing her play, it could set off a domino effect across half the tech ecosystem. But if she blew this, she'd be radioactive by Monday. "You've got 10 minutes, Jonah said, eyes now on her. "Sharp as ever, tell me the truth, all of it, don't pitch me." Emily took a breath, then laid it bare. No euphemisms, no deflections. She told him about the Voxen term sheet, the firing, the pivot to Apexion, the provisional title, the secrecy, the fake badge, the NDA drafts, the fake calendar, invites she generated to keep appearances intact. When she paused for air, he didn't react. He just stared. Then, "Why'd they really fire you?" She blinked. "Told you no," he cut in. "Why you? You weren't the dead weight. You weren't even overpaid. So why axe the one person actually producing?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Because Ron's a coward. Because I embarrassed him. Because the minute Voxen wanted me and not the logo, he knew he couldn't control the narrative anymore. So he pulled the ripcord." Jonah leaned back, swirling his sake. "So this is personal." "It's not revenge," she said. "It's correction." That made him smirk. Just a twitch. "And what happens if you fail?" "I don't." "Wrong answer." He leaned forward now. "If you fail, they paint you as unstable, as insubordinate, as a liability who violated NDAs and hijacked IP. They make you the poster child for why execs should never empower nice girls who smile too much." Emily's throat dried. He kept going. "I've watched this industry chew up better people than you. People who didn't go rogue. What makes you think you're untouchable?" "I'm not untouchable," she said, voice low. "I'm unowned." Jonah stared at her so long she felt like her skin might peel. Then he set his glass down. Carefully. "Good." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. slid it across the table. This is the comms director for one of Apexion's board partners. He doesn't know anything yet, but if you lock this in, if the Voxen deal goes public before they even breathe Halcyon's name, I'll nudge him, quietly, and the funding tide will shift before Ron knows he's drowning. Emily picked up the paper like it was a lit match. You're backing me? She asked. I'm hedging, Jonah said, but I'm rooting for you. Then he looked her square in the face. Make them bleed. I'm tired of watching idiots sink what I built. A silence settled between them, heavy with implication. Emily stood slowly, tucking the paper into her blazer like a war order. I won't fail. You might, he said, but you'll do it loud, and that's more than I can say for the rest of them. She left the sushi bar without saying goodbye. Out in the corridor, the air hit colder. She checked her phone. 1 hour until the final Voxen session. 2 hours until Ron's scheduled keynote. 6 hours until the announcement embargo dropped. Every path forward was now lit with tripwires. But the prize? Everything. If she pulled this off, she'd destroy the reputation of the man who minimized her, rewrite her own story mid-sentence, and walk into Monday as the architect of one of the most savage strategic pivots the Valley had ever seen. If she failed, she'd be the girl who torched her own career with ambition and spite. No in-between. Emily exhaled slowly, like someone lighting a fuse with her breath. Let it burn. The bomb hit at 7:43 a.m. Emily was reviewing the final deck in Apexion's private suite, the one scheduled to go live in less than 4 hours, when Lars walked in, unshaven, eyes tight, phone in hand, jaw locked like he'd bitten into bad news and couldn't swallow. We might have a problem. She didn't blink. Define might. He tossed the phone onto the table. A screen full of headlines blinked back at her. Halcyon Labs in talks for breakthrough integration. Sources say deal could close before Q3. Emily scrolled. The article was hollow, anonymous quotes. No confirmation, just enough manufactured smoke to convince casual investors there was fire. Her blood went cold. This is Ron, she said. It's a leak. He's faking traction. It's a preemptive PR strike. Lars nodded. Still, it's working. I've had 2 board members text me asking if we're losing momentum. And Voxen's COO just emailed. Need to reconfirm timeline. Internal discussion needed before press. That's code for we're spooked. Emily stood. She paced. The desert sun outside mocked her, pouring brightness on a moment that felt like freefall. This was always going to happen, she snapped. They're trying to create noise before the signal hits. Ron wants to control the narrative by inventing his own. Lars didn't answer right away, just rubbed the bridge of his nose and finally said the one thing she didn't want to hear. Maybe we pause the release. Emily froze. The room tilted. You're joking. We can regroup, let this halcyon stunt die down, circle back once the heat's off. No, she said, louder now. That's what they expect. That we'll blink. That we'll retreat. She turned toward the windows, fingers clenched so tight her nails bit skin. This is it, the voice inside her whispered. This is where most people lose their nerve, where they wait for perfect instead of forcing pressure to serve them. She spun back toward Lars. Give me 30 minutes, I'll fix it. He looked at her, really looked like he was trying to see if she still had fight left. She did, she always did. Lars nodded once. 30, she didn't waste a second. Emily locked herself in the adjoining suite, tossed her laptop onto the bed, and got to work like a woman possessed. First, reworked the headline, killed the internal language that reeked of MBA speak, and wrote something clean, savage, undeniable. Apexion and Voxen announce exclusive strategic partnership to redefine scalable AI. Former lead negotiator transitions to Apexion as interim VP. Then she made her boldest move yet. She picked up the phone, dialed Voxen's COO directly. No slack. No buffer. Matt, she said, calm but iron-edged, not countering Ron's noise. We're burying it. Let's go 3-way. Joint press with Apexion, Voxen, and your advisory board. Show the industry this wasn't just a backdoor defection, it was evolution. And I'll write it myself. He hesitated. We've never done a triple signature. You've also never been first to market with a modular, clean-room AI that doesn't collapse under load testing. Matt exhaled. You're serious. Deadly. Okay, send me a draft by 10. She hung up. Breathe. Just typed. Fast. Brutal. Precise. At 9:52 a.m., she sent the finalized release to Voxen's team, Apexion's legal, and Jonah, who replied seconds later with a simple, perfect. I'll pull the trigger at 11:03. The time was intentional. Ron's keynote was scheduled for 11 o'clock sharp. He'd be 2 slides in, deep into his vision board of empty buzzwords, when the push notification would hit every relevant outlet's inbox. Emily Tran, former strategic lead, lands exclusive integration deal at rival firm. The entire room would turn, and they'd be looking at her. By 10:15 a.m., the suite was humming with activity. Apexion's internal PR team was staging the media booth. Lars was back on board, pacing like a caged general. Emily stood in the corner, arms crossed, eyes laser-fixed on the countdown clock she'd set on her phone. There was no backup plan now. Foxen got cold feet. If someone pulled the plug, if even one press contact hesitated, her career wouldn't just flatline. It would detonate. But she felt no fear, only focus. A kind of calm that comes after you've already imagined every way you could be destroyed and decided to walk through the fire anyway. Ron wanted a narrative. She'd given him one. Only this time, it didn't end with her smiling politely while he took the credit. This time, credits would roll with her name in bold, and his microphone left dangling in silence. The ballroom was packed to the rafters, humming with that peculiar tech conference energy, all ego and espresso, badge scanners and startup stink. Rows of suits, buzz-cut VCs, graying founders, 20-somethings pretending they belonged. The lights were surgical, unforgiving. No one could hide in that room, not even God. Emily stood in the wings, behind the curtain, flanked by Apexion's comms lead and a Voxen advisor who kept glancing at his watch like it was wired to a detonator. Her heels were planted like anchors, her hands still, her chest rising with slow, deliberate breaths. On stage, the MC finished his hollow intro. And now, he boomed, "Please welcome the head of strategic partnerships at Merge Logic, Ronald Pierce." The lights shifted. The music swelled. And there he was. Ron stepped into view like he was descending from heaven, his perfect coif in place, a tailored jacket cutting his silhouette like an ego wrapped in cashmere. He held the clicker in his right hand, his other lifted in mock humble greeting. "Good morning, everyone," he said, all syrup and smug. "Let's talk about transformation." The screen behind him flickered, then froze. Ron paused, confused. He tapped the clicker, tapped again. The screen went black, a beat. Emily Tran, interim VP of Strategic Initiatives, Apexion in partnership with Voxen AI. Exclusive API integration, confirmed. The ballroom gasped. Actually gasped, like a single creature losing its breath all at once. Her photo was there too, high-res and backlit, confident, composed, no longer tucked behind someone else's headline. Beneath it, 3 logos glowed: Apexion, Voxen. A third from Voxen's advisory group, sealing the trinity. Phones started buzzing. One investor near the front pulled out his tablet mid-sentence. Another stood and whispered to a colleague before speed walking out the side. Emily could feel it from backstage, the crowd's weight shifting, physically turning away from the stage. Ron stood there, frozen, hands still lifted, half caught between power pose and panic. His lips parted, but no sound came. The screen behind him now played a short teaser, 3 seconds long, showing a sleek demo of the Apexion Voxen interface, coded to look like a clean surgical incision, slicing away the fat from old enterprise software. The final shot, her signature on the screen. Live, time-stamped, executed. The MC, confused, stepped half forward as if to intervene, then realized he was out of his depth too. Ron blinked, looked toward stage left like someone just yanked his tether, but the stage light didn't follow him. It dimmed. Hard. Feed cut. Silence. Emily stepped backward into the shadowed corridor, her body humming with electricity but her face still as stone. Her earpiece crackled. "We've got press lined up at the skylight room. They're already walking. Walking, not metaphorically." The audience, hundreds of them, were actually leaving Ron's keynote, drifting out in small groups, heading to her press event. You could feel the shift in the floor, like the building itself was moving away from him. He didn't smile, didn't laugh, didn't cry. She just stood there breathing, deep, controlled, alive. 4 years of being the fixer, the whisperer, the smile in the corner while other people took the bow undone in 4 seconds of screen time. No vindictive speeches, no confessionals, just her name, her title, her work on the biggest screen in the room. Somewhere behind her, Lars clapped twice and muttered, "Beautiful." Somewhere across the hall, Ron was probably trying to spin a story that had already set itself on fire. And somewhere in the center of the tech universe, Emily Tran had just become undeniable. She walked out into the light, not to claim the spotlight, but to own it. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.